Hello everyone and welcome back to the Liverpool Regional 2023. I'm Marcus Patar and I'm joined here by Mike Ellis. How are you feeling after 8 rounds of Pokemon?
Absolutely exhausted, but we get to just talk about the games. The players will be way more exhausted than we are because they've been playing all these rounds. We're about to get into round 8.
Indeed, I cannot even think what it is to have played like 8 rounds of Lost Box or 8 rounds of Inteleon. If somebody is playing Inteleon is like 8-0,
I find 3 games of Inteleon exhausting. My brain is fried after that.
Right, so here we are again. We are bringing you another Arceus Duraludon against Lugia Vista. So we've already featured, but this time the lists are quite different. I think it's going to be quite an interesting matchup. So yeah, we saw it before going in the favor of Lugia Vista. Let's take a look at a bit of the list. Let's think if there's anything that's going to make a difference. First thing that comes to mind, Lugia this time does not play the Tool Jammer.
No, but in place of the Tool Jammer, we've got that Lost Vacuum, the traditional way to get rid of the big Parasol that is found in Duraludon, and also things like Choice Belts. It's always good to be able to get rid of stuff. It's also another out to getting rid of stadiums. For example, a Temple of Sinnoh is often played against the Lugia, but there is no Temple of Sinnoh on the other side this time. So the Duraludon is going to be trying a slightly different angle of approach here. The same strategy of trying to get one Arceus V-Star, 2 Duraludon VMAX into play and get them powered up and then wall through that approach with the big Parasols, but not the same techs included in this matchup as the one we saw earlier on.
It feels like this Duraludon version is much more worried of like Regigigas or Lost Box. There is in fact 3 collapse stadiums in this version, 1 off Trekking Shoe. I think I like it. Just, one free slot. The card cycles through one
more.
more.
Acro bike.
Yeah, exactly.
If you've ever got a free slot, just chuck it in.
But you know what's really interesting here? The Lugia version runs 1 Echoing Horn. I think this is a great card against Arceus Duraludon because you're able to get back that Arceus that was just used to set up, and that will help you with the prize race.
That's a huge point, actually, that you only need to take out 1 Duraludon VMAX then with the Yveltal, because what we saw earlier is when there's 1 Yveltal and not many ways to deal with Duraludon VMAX, you do have to rely so heavily on it. But you see here, Antoine Boulet and Michael Williams. Antoine Boulet, one of the most important people in our community for helping with the translation of Japanese cards.
Indeed.
When the sets are first coming out, and they're going to be playing Arceus Duraludon. And on the other side, Lugia V-Star is held by Michael Williams, and we'll be seeing them get started shortly. Round 8 is very much that scary point in the day when you're trying to think about day 2.
Indeed, exactly. So right now, once again, for the people at home that have just joined us, if you get a score of at least 19 points, so that's 6x1, 6 to 1 in this case, you will be able to access into day 2, and therefore the possibility to grab the top 8 and eventually the title. But right now, these players are just on the edge. 8 rounds, 1 more to go. Feel this when you get 1 more chance.
So we'll see how this one pans out. It's pretty much a race of can Lugia V-Star get the Arceus Duraludon before they set up. But in this case, we mentioned that Echoing Horn might work in favor to get around all the different challenges. There is going to have to be a little bit of pathing through the match. The Lost Vacuum needs to come out at the right time to get rid of the big Parasol so that knockout with Yveltal can happen. So some of these things do have to be chained at the same time. So the puzzle is quite complex for Michael. It's going to take a little bit of timing with those draws.
Once again, regarding the general skeleton of the list, pretty standard stuff. Once again, the colorless experiment being run in the Arceus Duraludon to set up, getting the card advantage, 3 Manis, 3 boss orders, 1 Serena. I like the conclusion of having 1 Serena and 3 bosses ordered. 4 can feel excessive at times, and once again, you got a poker here to really seek out those cards.
Yeah, the other thing with the Arceus Duraludon, which we mentioned before, which is very interesting, is the unique evolution lines of a 4-2 Arceus V-Star line and then a 2-3 Duraludon line. There is the single strike Mustard in here. And on the other side, I think a pretty standard list. The counts are always slightly different now with Lugia V-Star as people start to find these unique techs. Both a Heat Fire and a Hiding Energy in there. So improving the access to the special energies for the rainbow attackers, getting Raikou into play, all those other different attackers that are available. But we see here, keys to the matchup, not quite the right matchup here for you. It is Lugia versus Duraludon.
Yeah, focus on the right side. Lugia is a deck that, once again, you get it set up, you get the Arceus up, and it's just raw power. Card after card, card after card, you're able to get. But here we go, Roy going into game 1. The players are still trying to seek if they have a basic. This is probably the hardest part for Arceus Duraludon players, finding a basic. Let's see if he has one right away.
Yeah, they tend to get Arceus. That's why the the 4-2-2-3 line was better.
Exactly. They have 6 basics, so the chances of getting a bit higher for the Arceus, but once again, 6 basics over 60 cards, you're going to give some free mulligans to your opponent.
Exactly. So we'll see how that pans out here as we see those prize cards going down, and 2 of the important single prize attackers, not as important in this match. We mentioned Yveltal is a key there, but Charizard could come in handy, especially with that choice belt for a knockout on the Arceus V-Star.
250 damage is nothing to be scoffed at, especially choice belt is that extra damage that sometimes is needed to get some extra chip in damage for the Arceus. Giving the Arceus one more turn to stay in and maybe even set up another Duraludon can be very sketchy at times. Here are the prizes.
Duraludon in the prizes, not great, not something you want to be seeing there for Antoine.
One Arceus, but let's see what he starts with. I didn't get a chance to see. The players are almost ready. We're just waiting for the go from the judges. But yeah, overall, I think this matchup may go differently than last time. Last time we saw a bit of a break from the part of the actual Duraludon, and a really well played by Luke last time, really getting in whenever the occasion presented itself.
Indeed. So just waiting. I'm interested to hear from you guys in chat. You guys really enjoyed that last match with Sander and the control deck. It did go to a tie in the end. Which decks have you been enjoying watching today? I'm a big fan of Stefan's deck earlier on. The Gudra with the Lost Engine was a lot of fun. We'll see how that ends up doing. I think Stefan's doing very well, actually.
Yeah, actually, I had a walkthrough during my break the last round. I went around to have a look at the various decks that are doing well. Fabien Puyol is on a very interesting deck. I'm not going to spoil anything right now. Stefan Ivanov is on a 7-0, currently playing against Luke. They will definitely play Don't Go to a tie because they already have 7 wins. Therefore, 21 points. So
well, Luke, in the interview with Luke, he was like, "Oh, I'm not going to draw. I'm not going to get this idea. I'm getting wins."
He stood true to his convictions. And right now, they're actually the only players on 7-0. Some other players on 6-0-1, and other players instead of 6-1, much more like that. So therefore, we already have a bunch of players that we are likely to see on day 2. Sander on a 5-0-2, needing 1 win or 2 tie. Definitely something that a control deck can achieve. But yeah, overall, I think we're going to see some very interesting deck on day 2. Pretty spare. I'm very happy to see Fabian is on 6-1. Currently playing against Matthew Clark. And yeah, right now we're just waiting. We have some announcents going on in the background. So while we're waiting, what do you think overall of Arceus Duraludon in this current metagame?
Well, as a fan of Omnipoke, who definitely puts some words in my mouth when it comes to my understanding of the game, they've always been a bit of dismissive of Arceus Duraludon. But one thing that is fair to say is looking at the stats, Arceus Duraludon can beat a lot of decks.
Indeed.
And I think that's the key right now when you're playing a long day of Swiss is can you beat all the decks? And it's quite a simple deck to play in a lot of ways because you can very much, I don't want to say turn your brain off, there is still some thinking, but you can very much play it without having to think too much. So it's going to be good for Antoine throughout the day as they have to focus throughout the whole day. We said we're tired right now. Everyone is tired in the hall right now. It's a long old day of Pokemon.
Yeah,
and when you're playing a simpler deck, it does help.
Yeah, mental strain is something definitely to consider after 9 rounds tomorrow. 14 rounds if you get access to day 2. That's going to be a lot of brain power required. As I mentioned before, playing a deck that is as an important engine or a very brain-heavy engine can come back to bite you. So right now we're seeing Michael going for a Capture Energy, taking a look through his deck, just sorting out, understanding what he has in his prizes. Once again, a trademark move of all good players. Grabs a Lugia and puts it down. Great start overall.
I mean, you say great start. Stoutland's start, not ideal.
Yeah.
I don't think Stoutland's going to be useful in this matchup. They're typically for the single prizes, which are in range of that double dip Fang. But okay, it's there. It's in the active. It is quite a big fella.
210.
Three retreat costs.
Yeah, he is a big fella.
Not easy to get out of the active, and typically Lugia not playing many switch outs. On this occasion, there is 1 switch in the deck. Some people are playing Bird Keeper. On this occasion, just the 1 switch. So there is a way to get it out of the active, but no way to find it. So for now, that Stoutland's going to stay in the active, and no Archeops getting discarded there for Michael. So not an ideal start.
Antoine overall feeling pretty good. Discards a Duraludon VMAX turn 1, that very cool black secret art. And discards also Turbo Energy. I suppose he has already another one in his hand. If he wants, he can charge right away the Duraludon V that is going to put in his bench. With Arceus' first attack, Trinity Charge, attaching free energy from his deck to one of his Pokemon V. So overall, I think Antoine is feeling great right now.
Yeah, and while checking through the prizes, that's when they'll find out about their lack of a Duraludon V, as there's 1 in the prizes, only 2 in the list. So Maybe going to start thinking about how possible the mustard route is,
Indeed,
which is
he
why
already
it's in
has the
there.
Duraludon. Imagine if he goes turn 1 into that mustard, into being able to get right away the Duraludon VMAX. I think he's actually going for a Duraludon V. Maybe he doesn't have it right now in his hand. Let's have a look. I think he's going back in because he hasn't shuffled his deck properly.
Well, getting that guaranteed energy acceleration is huge. Collapse Stadium could be massive with the fact that the Stoutland is in play. Stoutland clogging up the bench now, so good first turn there. Energy onto the Duraludon. I don't think there's a likely risk, looking at how that first turn went, of the Duraludon getting gusted up and being knocked out, because in order to get everything that Michael needs, he's probably going to have to use a supporter for draw, so Gust is out of the question there.
Absolutely. So the Lugia list plays one switch, which is something that you don't see every day in a Lugia list. They're usually very sort of still. Once you have an active, you're just going to use the special energies from your deck to get them out. But yeah, I think he is pretty much safe here. It is turn 2, therefore we're going to see a Lugia VMAX already grabbing an Archeops with Evolution Instance.
Don't speak too soon.
Yeah,
that's the logical thing. But we know we know sometimes. No, it's obviously going to be an Archeops. We've seen this play so many times. The start of every game will always be get those Archeops into your hand, discard them somehow. You know, there is Lugia V-Star in there to search out. With that being already in play, Archeops are always going to be that selection and discard as soon as possible. There was a Professor's Research in hand, so maybe the research is going to be how the discard begins. But still quite a lot to do here for Michael in order to get into the game and start taking knockouts.
Michael needs to, as you mentioned, to be mindful that Collapse Stadium do not off the bench right now, because you will need 2 slots for those Archeops. Right now he has a bit more use. The other thing is going to attach an Aurora Energy. That can be very, very important, but thankfully he runs one of the Heat Energy and one of the Hiding Energy to help attack with that Yveltal. And
that Heat Energy going to be discarded there with a boss's orders, so the boss was an option, but no way to get the attack off on that first turn. 2 boss, 2 Serena. Pretty standard to have a split mix. Some people like to go 3-1 either way, but yeah, 2 boss, 2 Serena here, and there's going to be that second Archeops ready to discard, and we're going to be seeing that Lugia coming in with the Summoning Star this turn, but the question is, can they get the Stoutland out of the active? I guess they can get a Lugia attack off if they put the double turbo energy on there and then double turbo energy on the Stoutland. They have 2 of those available.
Yeah, he could wild tackle right now with the Stoutland. I don't know if that's worth it. I'm going to say it may as well be 200 damage. 1 powerful energy is going to be able to knock out the Arceus. But of course, you will not need to attach any turbo energy, because that will negate the effect of the plus 20.
Yeah, typically not the attack to go for, the wild tackle, but you're right. It's still good damage. 200 plus powerful colorless is a great combination.
However, that will open it to being knocked out. At 210 HP means the Duraludon VMAX will be happily taking a knockout there.
Have you seen the new Stoutland artwork in Crown Zenith?
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Crown Zenith, wonderful set full of wonderful arts. Both the trainer gallery. Oh, there we go. The V-Star being flipped a bit too a bit too strongly there. Trying to throw it away, but there we go. 2 Archeops. Collapse Stadium now getting under it. So perfect execution here.
So the attachment's already happened this turn.
Indeed, the Aurora Energy on the bench. So he's gonna eye up a double turbo and a V-Guard. That's very interesting, because in that case you will be able to tank a damage. However, I'm not sure what the wording is on Duraludon VMAX. Is there any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon? Therefore, yeah, I think he's going for the attachment there in the bench. Probably going to use the other Archeops to get the other Turbo Energy and retreat that Stoutland. I think that's a safer play. 280 HP on that Lugia V-Star, and with a Tempest Dive, the knockout is granted.
So 220 with the Tempest Dive. That will be attacking into that Arceus V. So just got to work out whether the double turbo energy is going to lead to lower damage. Oh, the choice belt as well. I didn't see the choice belt there. So just going to be 10 damage above what's needed there. Arceus gone.
Yes,
so now the race for the Duraludon VMAX begins, and then we start thinking about the Yveltal taking that out. There it is.
There it is. His hand doesn't have any resources, and this is really the strength of this deck.
Oh,
No resources whatsoever in the hand, but yet you're able to put this much pressure and this much, asking so many questions of your opponent right now. So yeah, it's gonna take a knockout on the Archops. I very much like this. In this way, you're pretty much granted that there's not gonna be a Yveltal knockout in the next turn.
Yeah, Antoine doing a very similar play to Josh earlier. That when the Yveltal's not in play, if you can get rid of one of the Archeops, that slows down the speed of acceleration onto Yveltal, forcing it to be in play for more than one turn before it can attack. That's when you can start using Gust to take out the Yveltal before it gets to attack. So it does ask another question. This is what we're talking about with this deck. Is there's a lot of decisions that you just must do.
Indeed.
When you're presented with that option, you just have to take it. And
Exactly.
Antoine very well practiced here clearly.
And now Michael has another thing that he needs to consider, which is, do I go for the attachment? I think he's eyeing up it already. Yes, I think he wants to go for it. 2 cards in the hand of Antoine. That means if he doesn't have a boss on the show in these 2 cards, he may get being knocked out, and possibly Michael taking game 1. But once again, these games always come down to a single turn in which a game is decided because of the nature, of this matchup.
Yes, and I think the interesting thing with this whole matchup is, does the Arceus Duraludon have the cards needed? Now that the Starbirth is gone, the Arceus has been removed from play, no longer able to search exactly what you need. So as you mentioned, a 2-card hand, very much in top deck mode, knowing that something is in the active that can wall out the majority of attacks, just that Yveltal to worry about.
Exactly. So I just had a quick look through Michael's discard pile. There seems to be only a Fire Energy. There is already an Aurora attached to the Lugia and an Aurora attached to the Yveltal, plus the Darkness Energy. This leaves only 2 Aurora Energies left in the deck, which we know there's no in the prizes. I think Antoine is trying to think, maybe that's my chance right now. I think he's just thinning out his deck right now. I'm not sure what he has in his hand. If he has a boss, I think he would have shot it already.
So it's an Ultra Ball there, so that's going to remove both of them. So interesting to see the approach here. Maybe looking to get an Arceus down on the bench.
I agree. I think he has sort of
accepted the
idea. Yeah, I think he's accepted the idea that Duraludon may go down. Maybe with an Arceus, he will be able to get back into this game. The best top deck for him right now, I would say it's Mustard.
Well, so it was just a thin getting that Arceus into the hand. Just got to hope that they don't get it. And
yeah,
there's every possibility here with the Archeops that's possible. There's a chance that because it still needs to have 3 more energy to power up, a multicolored energy of some sort, whether it's an Aurora or, like you said, the Heat Fire or Hiding Dark, which are already out of play, plus 2 colorless. So
yeah,
this is
the Auroras.
The out here that Antoine's playing for is, do they have double turbo energy, right?
Indeed, I believe they
or
do.
They
There's
attach
the
from hand?
They have an attachment.
Do they have the full energy required? And they got 1 from hand and 2 from the Archeops.
Once again, Yveltal has a very specific energy requirement: Fire, Psychic, Darkness, double colorless. And
I always forget the Psychic.
Yeah, I know, right?
you never think of it as a Psychic. You always think of it as an Aurora. And you see there, just Antoine knows that the game is going to be over if that presentation from Michael is, I have the cards I need. And so on that occasion, we scoop and go next, but it's always worth asking that question because know they need something.
Indeed.
We've famously seen some finals recently, LAIC, where that sort of question wasn't asked.
Indeed.
And I think since then, everyone's been very careful at making sure they ask the question. Do you have the cards you need? Do you have the energy needed to power up right now? At least show it to me before I start scooping.
Exactly. And once again, if you need the specific information, it's always worth it to go to go until the end, because in that case you gain extra information that you can use in the next game. And you never know. Sometimes your opponent may have 20 cards in the hand, but the card they need is in their prizes. Therefore, it's always worth to go at the end. It's just 1 more minute on the clock, especially with such a fast matchup. You wouldn't really think that Duraludon is going to be part of a fast matchup. But sometimes when there's a threat that once it gets knocked out, it's pretty tough. Although I should mention that the Lugia deck does not run any ordinary rod. Therefore, you only have that Yveltal. You have that, and once you go through that, it's done. Best of luck.
I mean, we mentioned all the different techs that are in there to help in this matchup. Lost Vacuum to get rid of Big Parasol on the turn that's required. We also have the Echoing Horn to try and get the prize trade a bit better. Typically, Arceus Duraludon is trying to do a 2-3-3. Yeah. But if you've got that ability to get one of the Duraludons been knocked out, or the Arceus been knocked out onto the bench, you can sometimes skew that prize trade into your favor. So Echoing Horn, Lost Vacuum, very much useful tools in the Lugia V-Star deck for the Arc Duraludon matchup. So first game going in favor of Lugia V-Star. Lugia V-Star doing exactly what it's trying to do, get 2 Archeops out, power up some attackers.
We're gonna stick with Lugia V-Star for a while here, gentlemen. And here we go right into game 2, leading with, once again, with that Duraludon just doesn't want to get out of the active.
That's not an ideal lead right there. You want to be leading with Arceus, but as mentioned, only 6 basics in the Arc Duraludon list. 4 Arceus, 2 Duraludon. Not ideal, but let's have a look at these prizes. 2 fighting is pretty rough because there is only 3 in the deck. And on the other side, a 1-1 line of the Lugia. There is a 3-3 line, so there's a bit of coverage there. You only really need 1 out in play.
Yeah, I would say the most important card there is the Aurora Energy. And I think we see a Mani with the signature form Crown Zenith. These cards are technically just came out, but they're actually legal because they are already in the metagame. Therefore, here we see an Ultra Ball. I think it's going to eye up pretty easily that Arceus. Going to put in the bench, hopefully attach an energy to it. And next turn, with possibly drawing one of its Choose Which effects, being able to attack with it.
I mean, the dream for Antoine is to finally see that Starbirth come out. Last time it was not possible.
Indeed, it was knocked out right away. Starbirth into Trinity Nova, just a perfect way to set up the Duraludon deck. It's really, I mean, Duraludon, I think it cannot really be fit in any other shell of a deck except for Arceus. Arceus buff gives you the answer that you need, I mean the 2 cards that you need to get the early setup, and as well it's an extra attacker. It's something that your opponent needs to deal with.
You wait until we see that Radiant Eternatus come through. That's going to change things up. I've got my Eternatus pin badge on. I'm excited for Radiant Eternatus with the Flying Pikachu, Arceus Duraludon, Espeon. We're going to see that popping off with the Lost Engine. Just you wait.
Very hopeful of you, very hopeful of you. I said I might have a Alolan Exeggutor pin. I'm pretty sure there won't be an Alolan Exeggutor that will be good again. But going back...
Whoa, that is cutting off a long time.
Well, again, there was the one that...
Forever is a long
damage time. With, no, I mean, the one with extra damage for every energy that you had in this card. That was a great deck. But I'm diverging. Let's go back to the game. Here we see just setting up another Lugia just in case. I really like this play when you go, for an extra Lugia, because there could always be the chance that one gets knocked out, one gets bossed up. It's pretty tough, obviously, considering Duraludon needs to set up itself and requires a lot of cards to do so. But yeah, I think here Michael just wants to finale his deck. Manaphy won't be needed this deck. Interesting enough, gets a Stardom. Do you think he's going to discard it?
Almost definitely.
Indeed. So right now, 2 Lugias. Once again, Lugia's here in this matchup. He is more of a setup Pokemon. He takes a knockout pretty easily on the Arceus with enough powerful energies, but you really want to get the V-Star on. You want to get a Summoning Star and get 2 Arceus into play.
Yeah, with Antoine poising to put the Arceus V-Star into play. I don't know if it's possible with the hand. Classically, that's the problem of Arceus Duraludon, is those first hands can be pretty rough. Once you start thinning energy, get your Starbirth off, it all starts kicking off. But getting your first Starbirth and first Trinity Nova off is the challenge. As we see, yeah, that Stoutland going straight to the discard pile after the Professor's research. And let's see if it is possible here to get... Have we seen an Archeops removed from... I don't think we have yet, have we? So
no, there's no Archeops in the discard, but there's an evolution instance. And Ultra Ball, I think it's just going to, wait a bit. Michael has no rush right now. It's up to Antoine to lead this game and find something. I think he already has an Arceus V-Star in his hand. And he goes for a Colorless Experiment. Once again, we have seen this card happen already a bunch of times in this matchup, and it's always generated enough value for the deck to set up.
Yeah, typically Colorless Experiment only in Lost Engines, but seeing 5 cards and then removing 2 from play forever, especially with how many 4-ofs are played in the Arceus Duraludon list, is actually a pretty good way to dig. So you can see here, did get access to some useful cards. And Arceus V-Star, Starbirth going straight in. Antoine now kicking things off, everything in control. I did see a Duraludon VMAX in hand, so that's not needed. Now all that will be needed is a way to switch the Arceus V-Star into the active spot.
Indeed. Interestingly enough, actually this plays out so well for him. The only switch effects in the Duraludon deck are 2 escape ropes, and I think that's exactly what he wants to do right now. Unfortunately, that Arceus V-Star will only do 180, but that's still some pretty good damage on the Lugia, and eventually may even knock it out with enough help, and if it survives, which is a big if.
So we'll see that there. The Arceus V-Star going into the active spot. And this is
perfect.
The dream start for Arceus Duraludon.
Perfect.
At this point, it is so much based around what cards have been included by either player to affect the matchup. We said about earlier on different texts. Tool Jammer was in Luke's list to try and help in this kind of matchup as well as lots of others. This time it's the Lost Vacuum, which is a turn perfect card. It needs to come out at the right time. On this occasion, there is no big Parasol yet on the Duraludon VMAX, but everything is set up right now for Antoine, so it is in Mike's. Well, I don't know if he's a Mike. I'm a Mike. Mike we're going to assume Michael's a Mike.
It's up to you, Mike's. You guys decide.
Us Mike's going to decide, but Michael is going to have to try and find a way to get a knockout here. So the big Parasol on the Duraludon there, 3 energy on the Duraludon there, so your Yveltal will be required to get that knockout.
Indeed. Lugia Vista being so here, is going to actually evolve the damage ones. I like this because you're just going to probably use it to get the knockout. And once again, I mean, now the Lugia V in the bench is going to become sort of a liability. Once again, the heavy amount of Boss's Orders and Serenas in the Duraludon deck will make sure that Lugia will be used for good.
So we see those Archeops now are going to need to come out at some point. Both of them are needed because otherwise it's very easy to target one down and just ignore everything else on the field because that's so needed for your Yveltal.
You saw last game. Last game he knocked out one of the Archeops and that way he bought him a turn. A turn in which he wasn't able to capitalize on it, but he still was able to ask the question, listen, do you have the way to stop me from charging this Yveltal? It really slows down. The difference between 2 extra energies is massive. The Pokemon game is supposed to have only 1 attachment per turn, and once you break that rule, things change dramatically.
I mentioned it earlier, and you shunned me, Welder. That was the look you gave me for Welder, and we're talking about 4 special energy from the deck.
Welder was a Pokemon card. It was printed. I would like not to talk about it because it was.
Well, we don't have to.
Let's just put it. It was a Pokemon card.
Yeah, it's not in standard anymore. But what is in standard is Archeops, which allows you to take 2 special energy out of your deck and attach them to your Pokemon.
Indeed.
So,
does he have a way to discard these other Archeops? I think there is no. Oh, there's a Professor Research. It's a full out. My bad, I didn't see it. Discarding an Aurora Energy. Once again, taking note of these ones because they may become important later on. Yveltal in the hand. He is sure that it's not in the prize. Already looked through his deck. And now let's see what he wants to go for. V-Star, pretty much straightforward at this point. Also Oranguru in the bench in case he wants to put some of the energies back into the deck.
We spoke earlier on with the Lugia V-Star as well. Having things like Pump Kabul, Stoutland starting can really clog up the bench with Collapse Stadium in play.
Exactly.
But very smart benching by Michael, making sure there's plenty of room for those Archeops. We are now full on the bench when it comes to Michael's side. Duraludon and Arceus very rarely benching more than 2 Pokemon, so pretty comfortable with that Collapse Stadium in play. A little bit tougher for Lugia.
Lugia V benching, once again, I think it was the right play. It's always, in the moment that you bench Lugia V, you open yourself to the possibility of being knocked out and your opponent taking 2 more prizes while you could have a more favorable price rate. But it's still the right play because it's a sacrifice you need to make sure that you're able to get a Lugia Vista, because if you don't, then you need to bench a Lugia V the turn after, wait 1 turn, and then evolve into Lugia Vista.
So what we're wondering now is what's in Antoine's hand. They had the choice of one of them, right? It was a Starburst.
Exactly.
So good thinking ahead here from Antoine. It'll probably be a Boss's Orders to be able to get an Archeops up maybe.
It could be. Once again, that play proved itself to be very useful, and that Duraludon does not really care about that Lugia in the active. It can take a knockout whenever it wants. There it is. Lysandre Boss's Order. Which is your favorite Boss's Order, actually?
You're asking me a toughie question here. Probably Giovanni.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a retro. No, I should say Lysander because
why not?
TCG
yeah, let's
player,
go.
Right? That's right.
Lysandre, yeah. In case you don't know, Lysandre was actually the old Boss's Order. It had the same effect, and it was pretty much the same art. I guess they want to be consistent. I like that. Oh, there we go. Michael now has the Yveltal. He's thinking, should I bench it now? Will I risk to get bossed? Before it worked out, so he says, you know what? If something ain't broke, then you don't need to fix it.
Well, I think that second card from the Starbirth earlier must have been that Boss's Orders because
so
vital in this turn, but another one is needed. There are 3 in the list, but 1 Serena as well.
Exactly.
So you will need a boss to be able to get the Yveltal up into play. So an interesting position
Oh,
here.
some cards flying over the field. That's fine. We're just gonna shuffle those back in.
We'll see.
Look at the tension in Antoine's eyes. He's really like hoping that I don't know what he has in his hand. It could easily be another boss. He drew one card from the prize that we were sure that that was not a boss.
So much will be based around the top of that deck for Antoine. They need to make sure they get exactly what they need here. And the amount of times you see an Arceus Duraludon deck just top decking and hoping, especially at this stage, that deck won't be very thinned, really, because
to be fair,
some of the energy taken out, and that's it.
Exactly. To be fair, Michael still needs to find a way to deal with the big parasol. That's still something that he needs to absolutely remember, because that will stop. Once again, for the people at home, big parasol stops all effects of attacks as long as the Pokemon is in the the active spot. Therefore, that Yveltal attack will do nothing.
So the lost vacuum needs to be brought out the exact time needed. And, you know, this is why Skylar's being played by a few players. You know, Tord spoke a little bit about it in the interview earlier. Been using it to try and get the either cancelling Cologne or the choice bell or whatever individual item card you need at the exact moment.
Great card. You can even Skylar next turn for a boss order, which is something you may need. And now Antoine is going for a bit of a safer play. He's going to put down that Duraludon V, I think, or maybe he's just looking to discard it. Let's see what else he has in his hand. Also very interesting that the Tempest Die from Lugia did not discard the stadium in play. I don't think he cares that much about that collapsed stadium. Pokegear, there we go. Our card that we defended before it failed us. Now Pokegear, it's your chance to redeem yourself.
A boss?
There's a boss! There's
Excellent.
a boss. There's a boss. This time it's useful.
Is that not just game?
That may as well be. I think Michael is looking at it. There's a bit of dread in his eyes. And if that boss connects, which it will, he will knock out the Yveltal. And then Michael needs to pull off a miracle. I don't know what kind of miracle, but it must be a good one.
The only way that it could go wrong then is if Antoine benches the Duraludon.
Yeah, and then
it gets attacked, and then the
horn.
Echoing Horn and Arceus back. That's the only way. So maybe Michael will play out to see if that happens after seeing the Duraludon getting taken into play. But I think Antoine has done it. Okay.
There it is. There's the boss as well. Of course, Michael will need to rebuild and also have to consider the pressure of every time being hit for 220 unblockable damage and not being able to hit that Duraludon at all. So yeah, I think Michael right now can pretty much take the knockout without any drawbacks if he has a boss in the bench. But then
so this is it. We mentioned about the ways of winning here. We're very fortunate we get to know that Michael's got that Echoing Horn.
Indeed.
But that's not a typical card you see in
No,
League
and
of
it wasn't
V-Star.
even revealed in turn one. It wasn't discarded. I've been very careful about it. It's completely hidden information. Let's see if it's in deck.
Yeah,
there it is.
So that's something we know. You guys in the chat now know. But Antoine is sitting there thinking, I want to get this Duraludon down in case of any shenanigans like a second Yveltal, which is possible. Maybe, I can't think of any other option. Maybe an ordinary rod to get the Yveltal back.
That is literally his only play, I think. I can't think of an attack of any of the Pokemon in his deck that's going to be able to get him back one of the cards.
So 2 Boss, 2 Serena in Michael's deck. We've seen either of them be used?
I think we've seen
some discarded. We saw a Boss discarded the first turn.
So right now, Michael needs to find the correct answer. He does have, there's definitely a Cyrus boss.
Oh, there's the boss. Cyrus boss is quite a nice boss as well.
Yeah, it's very nice, right? The column pattern we've been discussing before. It's very nice. Really in team with Cyrus' personality in the game. So Oranguru, switching one back card, is going to be a Luminion going back into the deck for an Ultra Ball. Well, would you like to get back the Luminion? Here's your chance.
So that's going to be the attack there. So there is a win condition right now for Michael with the...
Now he discards it. Stadium.
With the Echoing Horn plus a Gust effect.
Indeed.
That Arceus could be in range. And the other thing as well is to think about what is in range, because the powerful colours are on that Lugia. So they have to make sure they choose the right attacker.
Absolutely. I think the Lugia in the bench has a double turbo. I'm not sure if he has a powerful.
I think there's a powerful and a double turbo.
Yeah, there's a power. So that's going to be 220 damage exactly, which is going to knock out the base Arceus V with a Tempest Dive. But yeah, it's still attaching one more energy just in case you need to Hyper Potion. I'm pretty sure you won't need it, buddy, but you never know. Cards at the bottom through money.
Have you ever been in this spot before that Antoine's in, where you think surely you've got it, because you haven't considered something like Echoing Horn, and then suddenly when that's revealed, you're like, oh, that's
yeah,
why
it's
they
one of
carried
those
on
cards
playing.
that just blow you out of the water, and you can sort of think about it, but as you mentioned, it's not a card that is really played. I think it's still a great card. Oh, this is nice. This is nice.
Oh.
Ordinary Rod to shuffle back those Pokemon. Therefore, he's playing around it. Very well played here by Antoine.
Oh.
The writing may be
Hello.
on the wall here by Michael. I'm pretty sure there's no other basic being left into the deck. He shuffles one energy once more, but he knows right now that he just needs to continue down this line. Keep hitting with those Duraludon. Do not bench anything, and now it's up to Michael to have the answers.
Especially with the amount of time left on the clock, if Michael can recognize that, then definitely time to scoop to make sure you get that game 3 in.
Yeah, indeed.
So we'll see. Michael...
G-Max Pulverization pulverizes the Lugia. And now it's up to Michael to really put on a show.
Yeah, there we go. Checking the discard pile, see if there's any other basics in there. If there isn't, then this will just be a scoop most likely. But what this does do is it kind of reveals, if Antoine thinks about it, it reveals the Echoing Horn potential. Antoine might have known this whole time.
I think it must have, because playing the Ordinary Rod. Once you draw it and you're like, okay, I just have this card, I don't want to draw into it again because I'm not going to need it, it really makes you think, okay, maybe in this situation, the only thing I do do is an Echoing Horn. Or, maybe he has an Ordinary Rod on Michael's end and I can't do anything about it. But
there was that risk on that turn where the Duraludon was bossed up and taken out. There could have been the Echoing Horn that turn to get the Arcs into play.
Exactly.
So it wasn't fully played around, but I guess now Antoine's going to be fully aware of the fact that Echoing Horn is a card.
And he's going to scoop them up. Michael realizes that that's not possible. I don't know if this is telegraphed some information to Antoine, but Antoine played really well, made a crucial play of Ordinary Rod, shuffling back those only 2 cards that might have been his lose condition. Very
clever indeed. And we're seeing the mind games of the Arc Duraludon versus Lugia matchup. Classically one that goes back and forth with tech after tech after tech.
Indeed.
Big Parasol, have you got a counter for that? And we saw there, have you got a counter for the Echoing Horn? Have you got a counter for, I don't know, the Yveltal?
Exactly.
There's so many things to think about, and both these players were back and forth there.
And this matchup gets particularly interesting in Game 3, because Game 3 is when you just had 2 games, you had the most information possible, and therefore you know what your opponents may play and may not play. He didn't see yet the Echoing Horn, but I'm pretty sure he has a suspect at this point.
Yeah,
I think he sussed it out. He realized, okay, at this point, this is very likely what's going to happen. And most important in this game, the Lugia player gets to go first, which is going to mean Lugia Vista coming down on the second turn if everything goes according to plan.
That's true. The Arceus Duraludon did get set up quickly that game, and the most efficient route possible, the attach Arceus first turn, Starbirth second turn, get the Trinity Nova off, Duraludon VMAX on the bench, gets all the energy it needs, big Parasol on that. So everything was set up perfectly for Antoine in that last game, but by going second, that might still not even be enough because you haven't got the chance to evolve to protect that Duraludon.
Indeed, and also the Lugia Vista getting that advantage instead means pressure right away. And sometimes with Duraludon, if you only bench one, may be knocked out, and maybe if you don't find the master the turn after, things can get really rough. So right now players are just getting set up. I believe we've seen, I don't think I've ever seen this, the Duraludon player did find a basic, when I said the Arceus players did not find a basic.
Yeah, you don't often see that here. Although you say that, there's not a crazy amount of basics on the side of Lugia. It's a very 3, 4, 5, normal 6, amount 7, there. 8, you counted them up for me?
10, 11.
Thank you. 11 basics
against
there for Lugia.
6.
Yeah, against 6. Yeah, okay. I mean, it's better than the old 4 of.
Yeah.
Like when you got a 4 of basic, whether it be like the recent big walling Stone Journers and stuff like that. But we do see a Duraludon lead again for Antoine.
Where are my Stone Journer chats at?
So Arceus is the preferred lead for Antoine, but on this occasion, another Duraludon lead, the less likely of the leads, but it is the same here. So we're going to see a Archeops search for straight away, a little bit of a deck check. Let's have a look at these prizes real quick.
2 mana is on the side of the Lugia. That's sort of relevant, but the Duraludon deck, once again, it's a very still deck. Once it's set up, it's okay drawing 5 cards. If anything, it's happy that the opponent is going to make you see more cards. On the other side, nothing exciting. Not many manas. Sorry, Mani, not your game.
I mean, there's an Arceus V-Star in there. There's only
Yeah.
2 of them, so if Antoine has to discard one before getting a deck check,
Yeah.
that could be a problem. But for the most part, that's not going to be a choice. You only need 1 in the match normally.
And
should
once
be
again, Duraldon really likes to start off this game, really likes to be in the active spot, really wants to take the spotlight, and is once again there for our viewing.
So do you think Duraludon V is a better start than the Arceus?
What do you think?
I thought like the Arceus would be better if you're going
Indeed.
second, because then you want to get the Trinity charge.
Exactly, exactly. That is exactly what it is.
Oh, so were you being sarcastic?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't catch your sarcasm there. That's on me.
Duraldon V obviously is a very clunky boy. He just stands there. Okay, listen, he blocks 30 damage. You're not gonna get donked. We're not gonna get donked.
I need to
with
check
Arceus.
chat. Tell us if you thought that was sarcasm or not, or whether that was Marco being stupid. Because I'm going to be honest. For a moment, I lost all my faith in you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But thankfully, you've corrected that for me.
I'm sorry.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it for a moment there.
I'm pretty sure Antoine knows as well that Duraldon is not the best starter. Especially, look at that. He even has a double toolbar in his hand. He will be very happy if he has. I can't really see if he has a switching effect right now in his deck. Sorry, in his hand. But he's going for a quick ball. Just probably going to get the Arceus set out. But Michael Hand is looking pretty okay. Oh no, actually. Right. Oh no, never mind. There is however aluminium on the top of the deck, so we will have access to that. They just put it at the top of our
and that echoing horn.
I really like this, by the way, because he's playing around Mani. He's basically saying, okay, you can Mani me, maybe I break with Mani, but actually I'm gonna put the Luminion V on the top of my deck, and I'm gonna draw into it 100%.
That's why the Oranguru has been so popular in Lugia since Tord piloted it at LAIC. Such a good card to protect you against Mani.
Primal Wisdom, a great ability, really high skill ceiling. The card itself basically says I have fully control of what's in my deck and what isn't, because a lot of Pokemon cards basically say I'm going to look for my deck, do something with it, and obviously Primal Turbo is one of those effects.
Right, so a little bit of a slow start for both players at this point. You know, Arceus Duraludon only knows 1 speed, which is slow start. Not many things needed, but not many ways to get them, because you do not have the room or the safety to be able to play consistency Pokemon like your Barrels or any of the Vs like Luminion or Crobat. Otherwise, you're going to be putting 3 targets on the bench. So on this occasion, they rely more on supporters like your Chorus Experiments. You know, if you're going to start adding in supporters on top of your researches and your Mani, something like a Chorus Experiment can be good for that.
Exactly. So right now, Chorus Experiment is just thinking what to put into the last zone, what to keep. It's going to go to the last zone, Training Court, and a Ultra Ball, I believe. So right now, I think he's in a pretty good spot, Antoine. If he has a switching effect right now, that would be even better. Yes, there we go. Escape rope. This does bring the Lugia into the active, however, which may be dangerous. It may mean that Arceus gets knocked down next turn.
But getting that energy on the Duraludon is key. If the Arceus gets knocked down, then that's fine, because then you've got the potential to get the VMAX Duraludon out, which, you know, you'd rather have that than the Duraludon V taken away, leaving the Arceus in play.
Collapse Stadium once again. Antoine really likes this card. 3 copies once again. I think it is. I don't know what he has played against. If he's going to win this game, we're going to ask him that. But it really helps against other matchups. This is not particularly the matchup for it. Although I must say, it must have been annoying for Michael to not be able to use the 5th slot in his bench.
Yeah, I think it's always going to ask questions of decks which are limited on bench space. So many different attackers for Lugia. Thankfully for Michael, not having too bad a starts, not having a Pumpkaboo start, or maybe Charizard or Raikou as a bad start in this matchup early on.
There we go, Trinity Charge, 3 energies for the lovely Antoine.
Going to touch him.
Ooh, I like that. I must say, I very much like that.
Different style, looking to just keep the tempo up maybe. Is that going to be going, those energies going to be going on Duraludon?
Yeah, we need to confirm whether it's going to go to Duraludon on the Arceus. I think it may go on to Duraludon. It's going for the safer play. However, what we notice here is that there's now 2 Arceus on the bench. This means that Michael has a pretty good opening. He already has, however, that Echoing Horn in his hand. So he needs to be careful about to not discard it. So he draws his card. It's the Luminion that he just put at the top. Discards Radiant Charizard. Not very particularly good in this matchup. And it goes for Luminion. Luminion signed, looking for a supporter card. What do you expect him to get here?
I am going to say a Mani.
I think so as well. There are 2 in the prizes. I don't know if he I don't think he discarded one yet.
This is always fun. I always enjoy trying to work out what players are going to pick, especially with ones like this, because I mean that is the most logical one. But sometimes there's no obvious answer.
Exactly.
But yeah, the Marnie coming out here, and I think this is a good moment to sort of talk about Luminion and like the combination of Luminion, Crobats, and Eldegoss that we've seen change throughout Lugia V-Star's evolution. Just the one Luminion in this deck, but. What are the advantages of mixing up those counts?
So Luminion right now, I would say it's the best one. I'm going to explain why now. First of all, its attack, it's great. 120 damage plus being able to be shuffled back into the deck means against stall, especially if I see a lot of decks today playing 2 copies of Luminion. That way you can go Luminion, attach free energies, shuffle it back into the deck. Promote Luminion. That way you can always deal 120 damage, always knock out the Reveltal, keep looping like this, and therefore never the Veltal of the opponent Pokemon against control, which is a really bad matchup for Lugia, will never be able to discard those energies because you're always going to shuffle them back and get them back with that Primal Turbo.
And Eldegoss is a similar.
Eldegoss has a similar effect. The only problem about Eldegoss is that it doesn't deal that much damage. I think it's 50 damage for a double colorless, and instead Crobat sort of fell out of favor. Starting Crobat is one of the worst feeling on the planet.
There's also, typically with this deck, you don't want to be drawing into your energy.
No.
And typically when you were playing the Crobat, it was early on when you were trying to get your Pokemon out. And because there's so many energy early on in the game, you're actually just often bricking yourself by going into all your energy.
100% have a Oranguru down than a Crobat, because Oranguru has so much more applications than a Crobat, and Crobat is a cheap prize. And prize trades when, Lost Box is such a prominent deck is so very important.
So what we see here, is that a pass from Michael?
I think so. I don't think he found a way to discard those Archeops.
Interesting. So slow start here for Lugia. 1-1 the score. So Antoine very much in the driving seat right now. Favourable considering the board state. So we're going to see an attempt to try and get this Duraludon VMAX into play.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he has in his hand. He's going to go for a quick ball, probably just thinning out his deck. I didn't get to see if he has a supporter yet in his hand. Just taking a look. Discarding obviously. Oh,
really filling out the bench.
So you need to be careful when you quick ball and try to find a card. I think Antoine obviously knows this, but like if you put a card like that and then you take an action, that means you put it into the bench. And this may know exactly what he wants, but actually that's exactly what he wants. He wants to also power up that Duraludon. That's the last fighting energy of the deck.
Yeah, you see one Duraludon, one in the discard, now one on the second Duraludon V. So looking to power up, so another turn taken to set up. Just sort of going down a more traditional route of I want you to knock out my big Pokemon that can attack you.
Yeah, I think Antoine's hand must not be great if that's the route he had to choose. There's a plus. It's a very minimal, it's a very marginal plus, but you get 3 cards that you don't want to draw out of your deck.
True,
but at this point, I think that's what he needs to do. Ultra Ball on the other side for Michael. I think his hand may not be great as well. He did Marnie, so we don't know if he has a supporter or not yet. There's an Archeops being grabbed by that Ultra Ball. And let's see what he wants to go down. I mean, even a manual Tetra from double turbo onto the Lugia will be able to make it attack this turn, but it will only deal 200 damage, therefore not knocking out the Arceus V. Let's see what else he has in his hand. That's 1 card, I believe. No, 2 cards, actually.
We got there Serena, so that could get rid of the Archeops.
Indeed. Goodbye, Archeops. Does he want to keep the darkness? I think he does. The hide energy will be useful for Eveltal purposes. And if he wants, he can set up 1 Archeops. Would you go for this play?
Probably not. Because I think at that point, the approach of just taking out the Eveltal later on will be so easy. Because, I mean, you just take out the Archeops there once it's on the bench. Oh, this is rough, isn't it? Because you really want to be able to get 2 Archeops into play.
Yeah, well, you have 1 Primate Wisdom. Maybe that solves all of your problems.
No discard.
I would still do it. In fact, he goes for it because at this point, you realize that Antoine has not a good hand.
There's 2 in there.
There's 2 in there. Oh, well,
yeah,
then we're not discussing anything.
I really enjoyed that discussion because it was a genuine, interesting discussion.
It was a genuinely interesting discussion.
And I'm sure everyone in chat was going, wait, isn't he got 2 in the discard pile?
Thank you, chat, for always being here, looking for us.
That's very assumptive of us. They might not. They might have all gone. They might have all gone to bed.
Yeah.
But if you did say something, we appreciate you.
Yeah, if the 5 people watching us have something to say, we're listening to you.
Come on. Don't be silly now. So what we see here is the ability to get that powered up Lugia V-Star. This is going to be deadly now for the attack on the Arceus. start those knockouts coming. If we can get some powerful colorless on the second Archeops.
Exactly. So right now he needs to have an attach because the Tempest Dive is going to deal only 200 damage. I believe I don't think I see any powerful energy. He has one in his hand. I don't remember if he has attached yet this turn. And I think he's going to go... Okay, there's no double turbo, so that's going to be 220 damage clean off. It doesn't still want to discard the Collapse Stadium.
There we go. So the V-Guard as well works as quite a nice extra safety net. Probably not going to be relevant here because the attack's very much an overkill with a 2-hit KO and never going to be reaching those big numbers with the 1 hit.
Antoine drew an energy, I believe, which is not great. I think his hand is Escape Rope into an Ordinary Rod, I believe I saw.
Maybe the V-Guard energy is going to be relevant now because Duraludon V going to be attacking with
10 plus 40,
Gatling
so that's going to be 10
slug.
plus 80, 90 damage, minus 30. That's going to be 60 damage. Once again, Duraludon has also Hard Coat ability. It's going to take 30 less damage, effectively bringing it to a 250 HP count.
So that is quite relevant there with the Gatling slug. I think that V-Guard energy actually coming in quite clutch, as it could protect it from a knockout in a future turn from G-Max Pulverization.
I believe there was an Yveltal bench, but there's still Collapse Stadium on the play.
There is, yeah, that's right.
So
I think we seem to be discussing that now.
Yeah, let's just make sure that they realize that.
Yeah, so we'll make sure that they know what's going on there because they're at Collapse Stadium. There is 5 on the bench right there. Easy mistake to make.
He may have been discarded last turn by the Tempest Dive attack.
That is true as well.
Yeah, I think the judge just noticed it.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, we sorted that out. The Yveltal goes back into the hand. No damage there.
See, if Alex was casting, he wouldn't have spotted that.
No, exactly. He would have tried to use his V-Star and get only 1 Archeops now. Hi, Alex. We love you. There's some more energy attachment really going in on that Lugia. Honestly, I think this is the play. It does have, I believe, 60 damage on it, if I remember correctly. Or actually, 60 damage. So if actually the G-Max Pulverization comes out next turn, it's gonna be knocked out. 220 damage. Plus
minus 30.
But I believe the Duraludon VMAX
it goes through all effects. Yes,
indeed,
it does.
Indeed.
Therefore,
but once again, those powerful energies do not really matter that much. Stoutland is not really an option in this.
I'll tell you what does matter a lot is finding the Duraludon VMAX.
You know what? I really like his commitment to collapse stadiums.
But all this talk about G-Max Pulverization is irrelevant if the VMAX does not come into play. Antoine is playing with just the Vs so far, not able to find any evolutions, but the Marnie here, because obviously the Arceus V-Star, a great option as well, because if that's found, then Starbirth is available. So this is a Marnie to try and get that G-Max Pulverization, could completely swing the game, especially after that Collapse Stadium. Stop the Yveltal.
There's a boss order and a Serena, however, from Michael's hand. Therefore, the Arceus is probably going to stick around. I don't even know if he has got the Duraludon VMAX. So it's looking pretty dire. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole situation with the Arceus on the bench as well. Doesn't even matter if the G-Max Pulverization comes out. The only advantage of the G-Max Pulverization is it will get rid of a load of energy, but there's 2 Archeops in play, so it's just going to be really tough. And Antoine knew that was the case, just taking the moment there to think through, but Antoine just not able to catch up in that game, not able to find the VMAX to evolve, and on this occasion, Antoine just missing out there as Lugia V-Star does what it always does so well, which is creating the snowball effect of that deck at the end of the game.
The deck is consistent, it's fast. As long as you get those Archeops in the discard, you're going to have a great time. And honestly, it's a pretty fun deck to play. You get all this slew of attackers, one after the other, always thinking about what would be the best play, what would be the best attacker, what is the matchup, what is the player going to play. This metagame is very interactive. That's something definitely that needs to be credited. Also,
it's fun to win. And Lugia V-Star
definitely
does that pretty well, as you can see right there. So that will be Michael Williams going 6-1-1.
So they can play next round.
Yeah, they can play next round, guaranteed day 2. So amazing work by them. And I think shout out to Antoine, just not quite able to get the plan to work in that final game there. We saw so close in the first 2 games. It could have gone either way, right down to the final moments. but in Game 3, just not able to get a single evolution to happen. No V-Stars, no V-Maxes in play, and that's just why Arceus Duraludon struggles right now. Is it's not got bad matchups, it's just got bad consistency.
Indeed, the deck really tries its best to always get a Duraludon out as soon as possible, always charge it with the dream side is always Arceus V-Star, charging Duraludon, evolving Duraludon V-Max the same turn, therefore you have assurance that that Duraludon V will stick. But that cannot always happen, can it now? There's no other ways to accelerate those energies. Duraludon VMAX, once it's down, it has a great matchup against those decks that only play special energies. But once again, sometimes he just doesn't get there.
Well, there we go. That's another Lugia V-Star Arc Duraludon match going in favor of Lugia V-Star.
You gave me just an idea. Lugia V-Star Duraludon in a single deck? That you may be onto something.
I didn't mean to, but
we solved it. We cracked the metagame, guys.
Honestly, I think with the Radiant Eternatus coming out, I think Lugia is not needed for Duraludon. I think we can leave it by the by. I mean, maybe a single strike box with Lugia.
We'll hold you up to your statement in the future, you know what?
You get more damage up because you can use single strike energies.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, a lot of people have spoken about how after rotation that might be the future of Lugia, is to play with the single strike energy. So maybe you're just predicting the future. Maybe this is 3 months' time.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting to think about rotation because Aurora Energy is going to be out. That's Sword and Shield stuff.
The single strike's still in.
Yeah, single strike is
still in.
still in.
So it's 4 single strike energy, 20 more damage, no negative effect.
Will this mad scientist predict? Has this mad scientist predicted the future? Is that what's going to happen? I don't know. The beginning is still pretty far away. So, I mean, Scarlet and Violet was going to come out. That's going to bring a whole new slew of Pokemons. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us for round 8. We're about to, I believe we will have a winner interview.
I think so. I mean, we're just making sure that's getting set up for you. We don't want to send it over to them too early because they need to be sat down and everything. We've got so much stuff going on here in Liverpool. We've got the VGC here. We've got Pokemon Go. There's loads of side events going on. I mean, the stores here are unbelievable. I went and looked around the stores with all the cards for about 20 minutes when I was on my break. And
hard worker, this one.
Any card you could ever imagine in rotation right now, they've got the alt art for it. It's amazing. And like every full art, every rainbow, every gold, every trainer gallery.
One great thing about the Pokemon game is that it's pretty cheap. You can build the tier 1 with very little money compared. But overall, if you are in the Liverpool area, please join us. There is so many events also for you, even if you're not an experienced player, so many side events for all different levels. And yeah, we're due right now to have 1 more round. Tomorrow, 5 more rounds. Plus top
8. Cool.
Woo. It's going to be
still a long old journey for all of us here. Hopefully you guys at home have been enjoying it. I think this will be the last you hear of us when we chuck over to the interview. Maybe a little bit from you at the end or something.
Yeah, I'll do some interviews. They forced me to do it.
But I hope you guys have enjoyed today. We've had an amazing time here so far today. We're not closing the show, by the way. Just want to make that absolutely clear. There is another round afterwards. We are essentially trying to wait for this interview.
Yeah.
But
we've been left here with like lonely children in a corner, like, hey, mummy, where is you?
I wish we were like the Zatus in front of us and we could predict the future.
One of them fell, poor little guy. Yeah, you have no idea how many times that fell today. But yeah. What else can we talk about? You know what we can talk about? We can talk about our predictions for Day 2. You know how like Day 1 will be a certain percentage of the various decks, and Day 2 will be a different percentage depending on how many have done well. What would be your expectations considering what we have seen today on stream?
A lot of Lugia V-Star, a lot of Lost Box.
It seems for how much people tech against Lugia, it still does well.
Well, I mean, the thing was, this was the chance for Lugia to tech back with the cancelling Cologne. That was their big moment for this event, and we've seen the Skylar being brought in, Tool Jammer. I mean, Lost Vacuum's been around for a while, but there's all these different options to come in for Lugia V-Star.
Yeah,
it's a powerful deck. It works. There's a few decks that counter it. Aerodactyl Vikavolt was a challenge for everyone to deal with. So these kinds of moments are pretty crazy for the players coming in because they've got to work out how to beat this deck that they didn't realize was existing before that tournament. And thankfully now they've had a bit of time to think on it. They brought in that cancelling Cologne as their answer to Aerodactyl. So for the most part, we haven't seen any Vikavolt.
Yeah, we haven't seen much Vikavolt action this weekend. I had a look through the high tables. There seems to be a bunch of Mew, although a lot of bunch of Mew as well throughout. I think it was a pretty popular deck. I didn't expect it to be so popular. Lugia as well, very popular in all different sources. I saw a very interesting version with Chulu Minions and Wash Energy, so always trying to go ahead. use that Luminium loop and being basically immune from energy discard.
As interesting as this all sounds, I know what we're going to next. We haven't got a winner's interview, but we do have a chance to chat with Stefan Eriksson. So we're going to be over there when you guys are ready. Are you ready?
I don't know who he's looking at, but I suppose he's looking at your chat.
Are
In
you
any
ready?
case,
Let's go. Here we go. See you later.